Welcome to one of the best times to be out in the African bush, just before the sun pops up over the eastern horizon. We're in search of lions that we're calling to the east, and this is Safari Live. Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Oh, Impala! I suddenly thought I saw something in the distance there, but it is Impala crossing the road. Good morning, and welcome to this wonderful Sunday sunrise safari. My name is Brent, and on camera with me is Brian and the Thumb. And the killer bees are out and about in search of lions. And I heard the lions roaring probably about 1.5 kilometers from here. They could be just across our northern boundary. I know James did follow a female across the northern boundary yesterday. Fingers crossed they've decided that the holiday in the north is over and they're on their way south back to Djuma. And it is a beautiful morning. And there's a few little wispy clouds around. But I think it's going to be an absolutely stunning day, and hopefully lots and lots of interesting things to see. Now remember, we're on a live African safari. Those Impala were crossing the road live. Hopefully we're going to find some lions live. And we also are able to take questions, which is incredible. So wherever you might be sitting in the world, please feel free to ask us questions by using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or pop us an email on questions@WildEarthTV. Now, we have been really lucky with the amount of lions we've had out and about recently. The Nkahuma Pride have 8 cubs, and they seem to be utilizing Djuma as the best place to keep those cubs. It is the safest place for those cubs. It is in the center of their range, the core part of their home range. So very unlikely that they're going to get any pressure from other lions. And of course, at the moment, very few hyenas. So it's a great place to be keeping your babies. So we're going to keep marching onwards towards the east and the rising sun. While we do that, I know James is heading out looking for leopards in the west, so let's go see how his morning is going so far.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to your Sunday Sunrise Safari. That is 3 alliterations there, Eggsy. Yes, very nice. It's a very simple grammatical little tool that, not particularly interesting. Anyway, my name is James, Eggsy is on camera, and it's good to have you with us here on this beautiful Sunday. Apparently it's about 16 degrees Celsius, 61 degrees Fahrenheit. I think it's probably about accurate. Normally the weather report here is absolute nonsense, but I think today that's okay. We're heading down south here, hoping to pick up tracks, perhaps, of the mating pair of leopards that was around yesterday. Don't know where they are. They went into Arathusa last night, but they are kind of mobile when they're in the state of courtship, so we'll see if they come back this way. Also, maybe Karula might have come back this way, so that's the idea for this morning. In the meantime, have a look to the east there, at the, well, I suppose, slightly oranging sky in what is a bit of a grey dawn, and a bit of mist hanging in the valley of the great Mlwamati drainage. The rest of the country experiencing quite a lot of rain yesterday. And I think that sort of bank of grey cloud there that you can see is possibly the front that dumped all over the rest of the country, now moving up through here. South Africa, of course, experiences most of its weather at this time of the year from the Cape. So it comes in from the Cape, hits the Cape, comes up the interior, batters the Drakensberg escarpment, and sort of leaks down over the escarpment, and then somehow it manages to make its way around to from the side of the Drakensberg and up from the southeast in this particular area. And that's what that is there, I think. Okay, let us keep going. We have not seen any animals yet, except for one very startled diker, who seemed most pleased to have made it through the evening. If I was a diker, I would be most pleased also to have made it through the evening. Not that I'm not pleased to have made it through the evening as a human being. Now, we're as live as Brent, so please do give us your questions and comments. We had some wonderful chat yesterday evening. Not really any animals, so we had to have some wonderful chat. So thank you very much to all of you who were part of yesterday evening's game drive. And hopefully we'll have a few more animals to talk about today. So please do talk to us, hashtag Safari Live if you're tweeting, or questions at WildEarthTV if you're emailing. Like I say, do not try and telephone us, do not try and send us a postcard or a handwritten letter. The postal service here, a thing of great distress. Otherwise, not much going on. The dawn chorus, very quiet as usual for this time of year. I'm still looking for my first Wahlberg's eagle, everyone. Very distressingly, Eggsy managed to ruin my day the other day. I thought I had spotted it. It landed. It turned out to be a tawny eagle. And Eggsy was very, what shall we say, insistent on holding the camera perfectly in frame so that we could see that it was in fact a tawny eagle. He was not content to let me live with my fantasy. So I have yet to see a Wahlberg's eagle this year. It's quite late now for them to get back. For those of you who don't know, a Wahlberg's eagle, a migratory eagle that disappears probably around April, I think they went this year. And then they're normally one of the first migrants back in this area, but they have not returned yet. Obviously it's been a good year in central equatorial Africa, or sub-Saharan. And the best thing about their return, of course, is the fact that they come back to the same nests, and so we see the same birds. Hello, Okie from Oklahoma. You want to know if birds snore? You say... You say you thought you heard some snoring at the Djuma Dam Cam during the course of the night. Okie, I'm going to say no, I don't think birds do snore. I've never heard a bird snore before. I've seen a couple that have been asleep. I think you're hearing other things at the pan there. There's much going on. With the warming temperatures and the bit of moisture that there is there, you'll get the odd strange frog that makes sounds that sound like snoring. Snoring puddle frog, for example. Might have a few of them there. Could be some crickets. Could be sort of some dust on the microphone that's making things sound like snoring. So now I'm pretty sure it wasn't a bird sleeping next to the microphone going... Could have been one of us from the camp snoring very loudly, and perhaps that floated down to the microphone. Now, we're just going to get to the southern boundary here and see if those leopards haven't come back. I've been startlingly unsuccessful at finding leopards the last little while. Been very distressing for my heart. Not really. I remember as a guide I used to feel tremendous pressure to try and show people the animals that they wanted to come and see. And there is so much luck involved in what we do that you really can't afford to feel too much pressure about the whole thing. Right, we're going to just stop in here and then we're going to have a listen, because we've got a lovely view out over the Drakensberg, and we'll see if we can hear any birds calling, and perhaps the dreadfully terrifying sound of mating leopards. Eggsy, off to the western side is the Drakensberg. I'm going to stop here, and then I would ask you very kindly to point your camera to the west. That's to the right hand side of the vehicle. Thank you so much. There it is. You can see a very misty morning there off to the west. Now let us be quiet and see what we can hear. A couple of drongos. One or two robins. Way in the distance you may have just picked up a fish eagle calling, probably at the Arathusa Dam. But no growling, snarling and sniffling from the mating leopard pair. Alright, we're going to do a little loop around here. While we do that, let's go to Brent and see how his lion tracking is progressing.
Now, we're in the area where I thought those calls were coming from, so we're just going really slowly, trying to see if we can spot some tracks. Now, they were just inside Buffalo's Hook, about here on the sunset safari yesterday. So let's see, let's hope for tracks going that way, which there are. Let's have a look down at the Buffalo's Hook waterhole. Now, I just want to carefully look at these tracks because it could have been the lioness heading down to pick up the cubs. Because I only see one lioness track so far. It's still worth having a look at the waterhole. Hi, Ellen. Ellen is in Arkansas, and Ellen is wondering, do I think the hyenas moved their den away to protect their cubs because the lions were spending more time in the area? Ellen, I actually think it's the other hyena clan that has forced them to move a bit. So the Elephant Plains Sibambili hyena clan seem to be coming quite far to the east, and they're a much bigger clan than the Djuma clan. So as far as I know, the Djuma clan has moved into the southern Manuleti, but I'm not sure. I would say it's more likely to do with the other hyenas than it is with the lions. Okay. Oof, a bank of cloud just came out of nowhere. I've been looking down for tracks, look up, and suddenly we've got cloud overhead. Okay, here we go, we're at the Buffalo's Hook waterhole. Just having a quick look for tracks, but I think that track coming down is of the lioness coming to pick up the pride. Just check a little bit further. So we can see up that little river system that comes into the Buffalo's Hook waterhole. Nope. Let's head back towards the northern boundary. See if we get any tracks coming across. Hi, Kevin. Kevin said there's been quite a lot of hyena activity around the Djuma pan, and does that mean the hyenas could be denning back on Djuma again? It is possible, but we've checked a lot of the dens, and I wouldn't say there's enough activity and enough audio for us to say that they're back on Djuma. You must remember, hyenas walk vast distances in their nightly patrols, so I just think they're on the move around. But I don't think it's that they've moved their den back onto Djuma. Hopefully I'm wrong. Of course, we'd love to have the hyenas back. Okay, so there were just that single track. I think that's of the lioness going to fetch the rest of the cubs that you saw with James on the Sunset Safari. So we're going to loop around back onto the northern boundary to see if there are any tracks coming south a bit further to the east. Lions inside Buffalo's Hook, exactly where he had them. Taxi, the Ngala, were they opposite that eastern access road to Buffalo's Hook Dam? Okay, copy, thanks very much. I've just passed the western side. I saw the vehicle in Konzo going north. I'm going to keep checking the Cheetah cut line, but so far no Konzo coming back to the south. Copy, thanks very much. Okay, so Tax is inside Buffalo's Hook, checking opposite us to see if they didn't head a little bit further to the north. Now, I made a silly mistake this morning. Brian looked at me and sort of shook his head in disbelief. It was so warm on yesterday's sunrise safari that I was like, nah, you know what? It's the first morning. I'm not going to wear long pants, I'm going to wear shorts, but I'm really regretting it now. I'm going to have my blankets because it is very chilly. I think it's probably around 14. Maybe, how cold do you think it is, Brian?
Around there, maybe.
Yeah, 13, 14 degrees Celsius, which is definitely long pants weather in my book. Brian, of course, is in his long pants with an extra double thick blankie. Just an Impala up ahead. Is not boding well for our lion tracking. There we go. Hello, Impalas. Seen any lions, guys? Oh, full of the joy of morning. Oh. Woodpecker in the distance. You can see the Impala puffed up, raising their fur, as they often do when it's cold. Now, there must have been a big party. I can still hear the party going in the village. Just this deep bass line coming across the African door. Doom, 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 doom. Doom. Okay, let's keep checking up to the end. If no luck, we're going to have to formulate a new plan. No tracks. Well, of course, there'd be one thing better than tracks, and that would be the lions themselves. And we keep searching for either. Let's see how James is faring in the southwest.
We are going north now, everybody. We're going up the main sort of access road here of the Sands, really. And the interesting update is that they have... Sorry, there's just so much going on the radio here. I'm going to pull that out of my ear because now I can actually think straight. On Arathusa, there's a young male leopard who's just crossed the boundary south towards Londolosia. I thought maybe it might be Sindile. It is not Sindile. Apparently, an unidentified young male, perhaps a male they call the rock drift male, who's been lurking around these parts. So that's an interesting update. No track so far of Tingana and Shadow, so I think they're probably still to the south of us. We're going to sort of make our way down south again, inside Arathusa, and see if we don't pick up something there. Otherwise, who knows? Otherwise, we have seen one diker. We did see another diker. That's two diker today, Eggsy. Well done. That's a wonderful return for the afternoon, at least for the morning. In fact, I think we're not going to go... I think we're going to go towards Red Dam first, and then south in Arathusa. So that's the update. No lions have been found yet. And also, apparently, Ellen Fowler says, I think she's staying at Arathusa. She's a long-time viewer. And she said she saw Shadow's cub yesterday. Now, that's very interesting. Ellen was giving the update. She isn't at Arathusa, sorry. Ellen was giving the update that another long-time viewer saw Shadow's cub yesterday on her own. So that's interesting, isn't it? I think we are coming closer to understanding why Shadow has never successfully raised a cub before. So for those of you who perhaps don't know, you may be new viewers, Shadow, a 9, it must be 10 by now, surely. I don't know when her 10th birthday is, but 9 or 10-year-old female leopard never raised a youngster to independence, and it seems that she keeps coming into estrus before they get anywhere near sort of independence age. Now, it's not unusual for well, it is unusual, but it's not impossible for a female leopard to go independent at age 8 months. But at the moment, we have a situation where she's got the cub will be 7 months old pretty much the beginning of next week, right? Next month. Yes, next month. It'll be 7 months old, and already Shadow is mating with another female. And normally they don't come into estrus. The aerial is languishing, facing the ground. Normally they don't come into estrus until the cub has gone independent, and that just has not happened yet. It didn't happen with her last cub, Sindila, so I don't know. And now, unfortunately, that male leopard has now crossed south. I was going to try and get us in there, but it's not going to be possible. So we're going to go to Red Dam, which is just up here, see what's going on there, and then we'll head down towards the south, and maybe we'll pick up Shadow and Tingana, or maybe something else, Eggsy, other than one diker, perhaps. Two diker, sorry. I do apologise, casting aspersions on our immense game viewing talents here. Also, in this general vicinity, we often see a very confiding warthog sounder. So maybe we'll be lucky enough to see them. Now, Chai Town Channy, what? Thai Town Connie. Hello, Thai Town Connie. You say, what is my favourite species of antelope? My favourite species of antelope, Thai Town Connie, is a Nyala. And I just think they're rather special to look at. They are beautiful red colours, the females. The males, a gorgeous charcoal grey with a mane of white hair and spectacularly spiralling horns. Yeah, I think they're by far and away my favourite antelope. I shall show you some if we see them. You'll stop and appreciate their magnificence. Right, here we are at Red Dam. Waterhole is always a nice sort of focal point for you to go to and from. It's not necessarily that there's going to be anything extra there, but they're nice sort of places to go and sort of centre your game drives on, in the same way that Brent went to Buffelshoek Dam to start with. It's now Buffelshoek Mud Wallow, soon to be Buffelshoek Dust Bowl if we don't get some rain, but maybe with this front moving in there'll be a bit of moisture coming out of the sky. Oh, the hive of activity over here, Eggsy. You're not going to know where to point the camera. Isn't that amazing? Look at that. Good grief. The Sunday excitement is unparalleled. One blacksmith lapwing. There it is. Have you seen anything else, lapwing? No. One hyena during the night, he says, everyone. Otherwise, not much. Ooh, and Eggsy, if we look to the left-hand side there, you've got Hornbill sitting on some fresh we had a Hornbill sitting on some fresh excavations of a termite mound. Thank you for that. Thank you. Off you go. Have a nice Sunday. Thanks for helping us out there. What there is here, everyone, is a very nice knobthorn tree. And this knobthorn tree is nice because it has put its flowers where even me, I of such short stature, am able to reach them and smell them and enjoy their gorgeous scent. So let me go and retrieve some for you so that you too might enjoy the scent of the knobthorn. If I can just get this earpiece out. Can't get it in, can't get it out. It's all a bit of a technical disaster. Can you still hear me, Eggsy? Yes, you can. Good, good. Can you still hear me now, Eggsy? Two things I'm going to bring you, Eggsy. Are you excited? Yes, good. The first thing is this freshly excavated mud from the termite mound. Can you see it there? Yeah. It's that brown stuff on my hand. Well done. Now that water that the termites have got there comes from somewhere under the surface of the soil. And so often the termites, or almost always the termites mound will go down to the water table wherever that happens to be, and you can see it's quite clay rich. It sticks together. There are no termites in it. It doesn't smell of anything. Now, oh, look at this. See how I'm framing myself. The smell is delicious. Take a deep breath, everybody. Very good. And it just infuses the whole air around these knobthorn trees with the first subtle spring smells. There you are, Eggsy. Nice, huh? There we are. Okay. Let's carry on. Let me re-plug myself in. Summer I do find from a dressing point of view much easier, as I'm sure we all do. I don't have quite so much paraphernalia that my wires can get stuck in. Okay, on we go. Leggy blankie. It's not very cold, just cold enough for a leggy blankie. Alright, while we leave here, we're going to head down south now, see if we can't pick up something else. Let's go and find out what Brent is doing and where he is.
So we've checked almost the whole eastern boundary so far. It sounds like The Inkahumas have unfortunately been located inside Buffelshoek. Not quite sure, they're probably about 1 kilometer from the boundary. So Brian and I have decided to throw the luck dice and we're going to head east towards Cheetah Plains, see if there's anything happening down there. Haven't been down there for a while, so quite exciting to see what's out there. Now, I haven't seen a good cheetah sighting in ages, so fingers crossed. And of course, there's always a chance that the Styx Pride, as well as a few leopards. Oh, I was hoping it was going to land. Yeah, the Juvenile Bateleur. Oh, beautiful camera work, Brian. Okay, so there we go. A Bateleur, one of the snake eagles. Also, one of the first animals generally to find a kill before the vultures. Oh, wait, before we carry on any further, I'm going to just swing the car around. And there we go. A beautiful African sunrise. Also a great time to just listen for a second. All I can hear is the hoop 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 of an African hoopoo. Hoop hoop hoop. Hoop hoop. Calling to each other. Right. You can also hear that Bateleur calling behind us. Of course, the raucous dawn chorus of the crested Francolin. Now, let's hope that that sun's going to burn off this cloud, so my choice to wear shorts will be justified by the end of the sunrise safari. Okay, so no sign of lion, no sign of leopard. Oh, I just want to listen to this. This is for the east. Okay, so no sightings in the east either yet, so let's go find some. So while we get on the long road to the east, let's go see James, who's got, oh, sorry, got a striped donkey.
There it is, everybody, the beautiful sunrise, and in the silhouetted light of the ginger dawn. See how poetic I am on Sundays, Eggsy, is a Burchell's zebra. The plain zebra, the most common zebra that we find out here. In fact, the only zebra that we find out here, but the most common zebra in South Africa. One of two species that we find here, the other being the Cape Mountain zebra, which in my opinion is an infinitely inferior looking creature to the one you are looking at now. The Cape Mountain zebra looks like a donkey. This looks like a fairly well-muscled horse, I feel, and I'm afraid the donkey and the mule inescapably less good-looking than the horse. And I suppose that, you know, the Cape Mountain zebra does come from the Cape, and so is inescapably defective. Not so, Eggsy. Yes, good. I am, of course, being entirely sarcastic. Some things from the Cape are not defective. Eggsy is not very defective, and he's certainly becoming less so the more time he spends with us. That's really lovely colouring, don't you think? I don't think that that cloud is going to burn off particularly permanently. I think there is a front coming in, but I might be proved wrong. I'll be very happy to be proved wrong. And let's just try and get an idea, once Eggsy has stopped being artistic, of what this zebra is eating. Very artistic, Eggsy, well done. It's still looking for grass. You know, many of the grazers are having to turn to browse at this stage, but the zebra's having to find grass, and still managing to find grass, amazingly. They will be looking forward very greatly to the first sprinklings of the spring rain. And you can also see, I don't know if you can see, oh, you can't really see there, I suppose, with the lens that we have on now, that it's eating long grass. It's eating quite a lot of structural material, that kind of strawy stuff that the grass is used to stick up the inflorescences. It's also eating roots, which many grazers can't cope with. So zebra's quite good at doing that sort of thing, because of course they don't have the limit, they don't have a space limit like a ruminant does. They're able to just, you know, the hungrier they get, the more they can process, the worse the forage gets, the more they process. And so while their digestive systems are not particularly efficient in the same way that a ruminant's is, that a ruminant's are, I can't work out the English there, their digestive systems are not as effective as a ruminant's are, I think. Okay, well, you know what I mean. But they are very good at processing very poor quality forage. Good, there we are. Andrew, yes, I would say they probably do. You say, do zebra ever give birth to stillborn young? Yes, I'm sure they do. I think it probably does happen. I suspect it happens less often than it does with human beings, but yes, I'm sure it happens. I think also you'll find, oh dear, the zebra seems to have got himself rather horribly caught. Oh dear. Phew. You don't like to see that, because zebra, rather like horses and any other antelope, will panic if they get caught. And they'll just start pulling. And then they can do themselves a horrible injury. You know, he seems to be okay. So, you know, with stillborns and any kind of birth problems, I think it's you know, because of human beings, and there must be a genetic component to birth troubles. We know that human beings, for example, a breech birth is not uncommon, but we also know that, you know, 200 years ago, breech birth would have resulted in death for probably mother and baby, whereas now it's not an issue at all. Out here, a breech birth will almost certainly result in death for both. And if there is a genetic component for that causes an animal to have a breech birth, obviously those genes will then be bred out of the population. In human beings, of course, that is not the case with the advances in medical science. So I think you'll find that a lot of birth difficulty is excluded by the fact, or the genetic component of birth difficulties are excluded by the fact that these animals don't have any medical care. The second thing, of course, is that human beings are inescapably poorly designed for giving birth. This is because we are bipedal, which means the birth canal runs through the hips as opposed to out the back of them. Our hips are at 90 degrees to any other animal or any other sort of quadruped, and that means that birth is very dangerous for women, much more so than it would be in just about any other species. And I think you'll find that up until fairly recently, human beings, or human being women, had a much higher attrition rate due to birth than any other mammal. So not an easy thing. Obstetrics in the human being? Right, I think we've seen enough of that zebra having his breakfast. I'm becoming quite peckish looking at him, so let's just continue down to the south. We of course have seen a zebra giving birth live. That was David and I. It was a wonderful experience. I've never seen an animal giving birth before. All of my colleagues up to that point had seen it, and I had not. So it was a great joy to behold. Sorry, this microphone. I may well lose my temper with this microphone at some stage during the morning and fling it into the bush. In which case I shall just have to shout into the back microphone. But because it's Sunday, I'll try not to lose my temper. Hello Marley G in Illinois. Oh, look at that kudu standing on top of the termite mound. Isn't she beautiful? Hello. She's coming closer. That's very unusual for a kudu. Marley G, while we watch this browser, you want to know the difference between a browser and a grazer? Well, watch carefully, and this kudu is going to answer your question for you. Remember what you saw that zebra eating? A grazer eating grass. Watch the kudu here. The kudu is a browser. Just keep watching. All shall be revealed. And there, the kudu's colleagues. And they're eating leaves. You see that, Marley G? So it's leaves from trees, is what browsers are. Some are mixed feeders. Most are specialists in one or the other, browsing or grazing, because you need a slightly different suite of enzymes and bacteria in the gut to cope with the different plants that you eat, especially as tree leaves are probably more protein-rich than grass leaves, but they do carry with them a tremendous number of chemical defensive mechanisms which are particularly difficult to digest. So while some grazers will certainly try and browse if they have to in a dry season like this, they will almost certainly try and get their sort of specialist food before they turn to the food of others. Again, just that lovely subtle winter colour there of the kudu browsing in the thicket. We're not having too much luck down here in Arathusa, I'm afraid, but that's not got anything to do with Arathusa. And you can hear in the background the woodwind section firing up. The sound of the long-tailed shrikes or magpie shrikes calling. Not sure what they're singing at. Probably each other. It's probably a territorial dispute. I'm just... I think we've sorted the microphone problems, everybody. I know you've all been dreadfully worried about it. Not so, Eggsy?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Alrighty, let's continue on our way to the south. And as I said, Rebecca, those birds, the magpie shrikes, probably in the middle of a territorial dispute with each other. They are flocking birds, and the flocking birds are often sort of territorial, And when two flocks meet each other on a territorial boundary, they will shout and scream at each other like those ones are doing. Just keep an eye out and make sure they're not alarming. Hello Jean, very nice question. You want to know if female great apes have the same trouble giving birth as humans do? They don't, because their hips are not designed in the same way that ours are. So our hips, if you think of a quadrupedal animal, so an animal that is, well, has 4 feet. I'm just going to quickly show you these magpie shrikes if I can find them. And they are still shouting at each other. So see that they're not shout. They do alarm call at predators. I didn't see any predators. You may as well just do a turn up here. If you think of a quadrupedal mammal, the birth canal sits... how do I best describe this? Well, let's do it with a picture. I'm not going to draw you a picture because I'm hopeless at that sort of thing. Let's just take this. This is obviously not a female animal. There is the birth canal on a mammal, right? There are the hips, they come down like that, and the birth canal goes out that way. In a human being, that situation, remember, is shifted by 90 degrees, so the animal's body shifts up. So we stand upright, which means that our spine is shifted 90 degrees there, and the birth canal, instead of going sort of out behind the hips, must go through them. And the great apes don't have that problem. The great apes are quadrupedal, they're not bipedal. Yes, they can stand on their back feet if they have to, but then they eventually will have to, they can't move for lengthy periods on their back feet because it's just uncomfortable, because their hips and their spine, the way the hips and the coccyx are attached to the spine, very different from the way that it is with human beings. And that's why it's dangerous for humans and not for the great apes. There are these birds shouting at each other. They don't seem to be shouting at a predator. I think it's 2 flocks. There's the one flock there, Eggsy, to the left-hand side of where you're looking. Yeah, it's definitely a little territorial dispute here. You see the ones on the left there? There are lots of them there. So there are a whole lot more, and they're doing what we call flag waving. Well, they were doing what we call flag waving. They were sitting on the branches and opening their wings and flapping them, and then shouting at the other flock. There we go. Go to the right-hand side slightly. There. Those ones there. Just have a look at those. They were doing the flag waving display. And now they're not, obviously. And another interesting example here of birds where male and female are not sexually dimorphic. They look exactly the same, but they both have this seemingly strange long tail that differs no evolutionary advantage that I can pick up on. A long tail is difficult to fly with. So why they should have it, I don't know. Why the female should take the same risk as the male, we're not sure. Look there, they're flag waving on the ground there. Oh, I keep missing it every time they do it. Eggsy's on some that aren't doing it. Now they're stopped, obviously. Look at them hopping there. There we go. Some flag waving, everybody. There might be an element of courtship here, you know. That's interesting. We are getting to the mating season for birds. And I think in a flock like this, there's an alpha pair normally, and the rest are kind of helpers. Oh, they're being attacked by Birchall starlings. This is such a beautiful little sighting. Hello, Siberia Zumi. You want to see if we can't find all of the starlings that you can find at this time of year today? Yes, we can certainly try and do that. They're all here. The only one I'm pretty sure we won't see, because they are, well, they're not migratory, but they're nomadic and therefore don't occur here very often. Ooh, that was a big dive bomb there. Is the wattled starling, but I think the greater blue, oh, and we also won't see the plum coloured because they aren't here, but we might see the greater blue-eared glossy, the Cape glossy, and we've seen the birchals. I will certainly try and find the others for you as well. Very, very interesting bird situation here. So I think two flocks of long-tailed or magpie shrikes having a territorial dispute, flag waving at each other on a territorial boundary. Perhaps there's some sort of food source here, and I wonder if the starlings don't want to eat the food source, although that's a starling alarm call as well, you know. I'm going to sneak forward and just see if there isn't perhaps a snake or a bird of prey somewhere around here. Like an African hawk eagle, or perhaps a little sparrow hawk, lizard buzzard. No, I can't see anything here. We're just going to get a little bit up the road. Bruce, you say maybe the longtail helps other birds of the same species spot them easily. Yep, I think that could be one of the explanations. It just doesn't explain then why all birds don't have long tails. You know, if it works for one, it often works for the other. So if grey-headed sparrows can spot each other with long tails, without long tails, why do these ones need long tails, especially as they don't, these are, you know, they're floppy tails. That doesn't give them any advantage for flying. In fact, it probably makes flying a lot more difficult. So, yeah, I'm not sure. It's a little bit like the story of the lilac-breasted roller, where the female is the same colour as the male. Those colours make them more obvious to potential predators. It doesn't really make any sense to me why they should be both that colour. And maybe it does not have an evolutionary reason. Maybe it's just maybe it's sexual selection that's driven them that way. I don't know. Right, no leopards so far. We would have stopped for them if we'd seen them. Hello, Robin. You want to know what the magpie shrikes eat? Well, magpie shrikes are, oh, well, they're obviously shrikes, and therefore they eat meat, but that meat can be insects, it can be probably small reptiles. They're not very big, those chaps, so probably small reptiles, maybe the odd snake, possibly the odd very small frog, but it will be largely insects, grasshoppers, that sort of thing, and termites, I imagine. This time of year, whatever they can. Right, let us move slowly down here. And this is the vicinity into which I thought maybe those leopards would have come. But maybe not. Something would be nice though. Some elephants perhaps. I can't believe we didn't see any elephants yesterday at all. Much evidence of elephants by way of broken down trees and chewed off bark. There we are, Eggsy, you see? Alright, never mind. Hello, Andrew. You want to know what the silliest bird I've witnessed is? That's a very good question. I have seen some silly birds in my time. Trying to think. When you said that, I immediately thought, yes, I do know exactly, but then I stopped knowing. You know what I mean? There is definitely a bird. I would say probably there's a close tie between the Egyptian goose and the hardy-dar ibis, and it's mainly to do with the sounds they make. There are some impala, which we'll stop at because we haven't seen anything else. The Egyptian goose, Andrew, spends a lot of time in great conversation and debate. And the male and female pairs fly around shouting at each other for hours on end, and it's very amusing to watch them. And then there's the hardy-dar ibis, which lives in flocks, and they have a deep need to communicate with each other from very close distances at very high volume. And they always have a kind of bemused look of confusion on their faces as they go, "Ah! Ah! Ah! Ah!" sitting right next to each other. And I've always thought they were rather silly. And you might just be able to hear in the background there some oxpeckers going kss, 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 kss. Here they come. They're probably going to land on these impala. Don't worry about trying to get them on camera, Eggsy. Let's see if they land on the impala, or if they've given up and they've seen something else. Here they come. No, they're going to land on this tree here. There they are, on the top of the tree, where the starling is, another Birchall starling, and they'll be looking for nesting spots as well. Birchall starlings and oxpeckers both like to nest in old woodpecker holes, and in fact, there's one that seems to be investigating a hole. In fact, it's disappeared. It's in there somewhere, but it's moved into, I think it's in a hole. Just keep watching there. Yeah, that one. It went in there. There it is. You can just see it moving on the right-hand side. Maybe it's a heavily gravid female. Maybe she's ready to lay her eggs. If it does turn out to be a nest, it'll be my third one. That's very unusual for me to have found so many nests. No, it's given up. It's just enjoying the warmth of the Sunday sun. Very nice. These are red-billed oxpeckers, one of two species that we get here, of course. The other being the yellow-billed oxpecker, which tends to be on larger animals like giraffe and buffalo. Seldom on anything else. Cattle, if you go further north of us. Ali, you want to know if I've ever been dive-bombed by a bird? I certainly have been dive-bombed by a bird. I was dive-bombed for the first time as a young boy, walking down the, third fairway, when my father was trying desperately to teach me how to play golf. Poor fellow failed. And I was probably about 10. And we were dive-bombed by a number of crowned lapwings that came bursting out of the bush. I remember flailing around with a 3-iron, about as effectively as I used to hit a golf ball with that 3-iron, so I didn't manage to hit them, which was probably a good thing. But they dive-bombed me there, and I've been dive-bombed a number of times after that. But you know, those birds don't generally actually hit you. They just make you feel a little bit like you're in an Alfred Hitchcock film. Right, Brent Leo Smith has made it all the way to Singapore. Let's go and find out if he's got any noodles to eat.
Unfortunately, it looks like the noodles are few and far between. We're about 3/4 away along the northern edge of Cheetah Plains. We're just making sure that there's been no movement of animals from the north into Cheetah Plains so far. There has not even been a steenbok track crossing the road, but we are heading to that very productive eastern area on the Kruger boundary, and we're hoping that there we might have a bit more luck. Now, we did also have a quick squiz at 3 in a row pan. Unfortunately, no sign of anything there, but I'm holding hope for the southeastern corner. I think that's going to be our best bet at cats this morning. But it is a glorious morning, and we're about to meander towards the first of the large open areas. Now, as it warms up, you're probably going to find quite a lot of elephant movement coming through from the Kruger towards the waterholes. So we'll be keeping an eye out for them. And maybe quite a few zebra as well. Of course, I always like to check on my good mate, Gnormless Gnorman the Gnu, and his arch nemesis, Normal Norman. Now, we're about to approach Normal Norman's part of the woods, so let's see if he's out and about. For those of you who knew, that sounds a bit strange, Normal Norman and Gnormless Gnorman. So those are two dominant male wildebeests that live on the two separate large open areas on Cheetah Plains. And they are both dominant bulls, and they protect those short grass areas from other bulls. And what happens is the females will move from these different territories, mating with them, although they're finished mating now. And what that does is ensure a bit of genetic diversity amongst the wildebeest populations. Every time we see lion tracks around old Gnormless's area, I always feel a bit worried for the old chap. Very strange looking little thing. Let's have a look. Was it an elephant dragging a stick? Yes, it was. I got slightly excited. I thought it might be a drag mark. I'm going to have a look at it there. But it's an elephant dragging a stick across the road, not a leopard dragging an impala. Oh, at least we've got a set of tracks. There's an elephant track, there's a Kudu track there. Oh, look. One of my favorite little birds. Let's just sneak forward a bit. And of course, if there's no large mammals around, they're always our feathered friends to keep us company. There's the female out in the open. Oh, you've got the male now. Okay. Come on, pop your head out. Now, oh, there he goes. Very distinct head, that wonderful burnt amber almost. What colour would you describe his head? Burnt amber? Orange? Yeah. Oh, off he goes. Now the female's still following on the other. Oh, there he is. He's such a pretty bird. That is a male Coqui Francolin, for those who are looking to add to their bird list. So Coqui and Shelley's Francolin, we hear more often than we see. So it's quite nice to catch them out in the open. It's actually two males. It's not another female. And it's actually throat. Now, Justin S. is wondering, how can the brain of something as small as a bird be so complex? Well, Justin, you're going to have to ask the evolutionary scientists. Now, in comparison to a mammal, a bird's brain, and depending on the bird actually, is relatively simple. And you will find with most wild mammals and birds and things like that, their brains are complex, but it's based off a bunch of instinctive behaviors. So no real process for true thought. Oh, there's the female. Is that a female or is it another little male? Oh, she's scattling. That's the female. You can see that face mask and the white throat. Dip, 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 dip. Keeping up with her boyfriends. Isn't she lucky? She's got two. Now, they are very beautiful birds, and like with a lot of beautiful birds, they don't have the prettiest call about. These guys in particular have a call that could only be described as almost like rusty bed springs. Let's see if I can find it for you. You can hear the little contact calls. They often use those contact calls just to check where the other members of the flock are. But that's the Coqui Franklin's call that you can hear. There's that female. Oh, exquisite little creatures. There's actually how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. Now, the milk guard is wondering, do we have pigeons out here? Well, we do. In particular, we have a very interesting pigeon called the African green pigeon. And we're just going to keep watching this Francolin for a little bit, and I will show you what they look like. Oh. Okay, well, let's leave those Francolins. So, here's the African green pigeon. Very beautiful. And it's got zygodactyl feet, so it's able to clamber around like a parrot. And its favorite food is fruits. Now, Andrew is wondering, what is the most romantic bird out here? And I think that would probably have to be the red-crested coran. Now, often nicknamed the suicide bird, to impress the ladies. The males will fly vertically into the air, close their wings, and plummet to the ground. And then, about 10 meters from the ground, they open their wings and just land safely. So it's all to impress females, the red-crested coran. And I'll show you a quick picture of that one before we move on. Let me see. Okay, there we go. And oopsie. There is the red-crested coran. And that little red crest is actually hidden for most of the time, only when it raises its crest, when it's calling, and in display before it does the suicide dance to impress the ladies as it raised that red crest. Okay, so we've been sitting quietly watching the birds, chatting about birds. We haven't heard any sound of larger mammals, but as I said, we're probably about 60 meters from normal Norman, the GNU, or wildebeest, its territory. So let's pop through, see if there's anything on the first of the large open areas. Now, I'm secretly hoping, as we move towards the southeastern corner, that we might have a bit of luck with my favorite female leopard that we see on Safari Live, and that is Nkanyeni. And she's the queen of the east. Cheetah Plains, coral, torchwood, although most of her territory falls within inside the Kruger National Park. Okay, so first wide open expanse. Oh, elephants! We were hoping that elephants were going to be coming out to the water holes, and looks like a nice herd at Cheetah Plains Pan. So we'll carry on our boundary patrol in Cheetah Plains just now, but let's go catch up with those Ellies while they're having a drink. Now, on Cheetah Plains, sometimes you've got to be a little bit careful how you approach elephants. Quite a few of them are coming out of the Kruger, where there's no tourist roads and they're not used to seeing cars. not all of them. So what we do is, oh, look at that, the water walk, or the water run. Sorry, we're a bit far away, but it's, I'm thirsty, yay, water. So it looks like there might be another herd arriving. So it looks like we're bang on time to arrive at the Cheetah Plains pan. So what I'm going to do is, as we get a bit closer, I'm going to start gauging their behavior a bit more carefully to see if they're a relaxed herd or non-relaxed herd. They look okay from here. It's very important to watch elephants carefully. And if they're not a relaxed herd, of course we don't want them to get upset. Maybe not the most relaxed herd, but not too bad. It seems like most of them have finished with their morning drink and are heading up into the woodland to feed. Okay, no, they're not too relaxed. You can just see that female at the end there. She's feeling a bit panicked. See that tail sped up. So we're not going to follow these elephants. We're not going to put too much pressure on them. We don't want them to have any negative connotations with our safari vehicles. So see that tail? It's a little bit stiff. There's a bit of stiffness in the body. And we're just going to watch them from a distance. Let them get used to the vehicles. But there's a strong possibility that these elephants have come out of the Kruger and are not used to cars yet. See, there we go. They're feeling a bit more secure once they hit some bush, where there's some trees between us and them. You can see they've slowed their walk. Their body language is relaxed again. Okay, so we're going to leave those Ellies. As I said, we don't want to put any pressure on elephants that aren't 100% relaxed around us. So we'll let them meander off into the broadleafed woodland to feed. James was asking if one of the cows only had one tusk. There's one female who's got no tusks by the looks of things, and there is a female with only one tusk. No small babies. Youngest probably being about 3 years old. And you can see they've slowed down, they're completely relaxed again. And we do have such wonderful sightings of elephants that there's no need to put pressure on elephants that feel a little bit uncomfortable with our presence. And that's also one of the ways to get yourself into trouble with animals. And it's very important to read each different animal and even the same animal differently every day on their body language. That's how we keep safe and also keep the animals safe. So we're going to go back to our northern boundary and continue our boundary patrol of Cheetah Plains. And while we do that, let's go see how James is faring back in the west.
Not much different from when you last saw us, but very interesting that, everybody, that a second unrelaxed herd of elephants there on Cheetah Plains. Of course, Viam and I had one the other day, a very small herd of 5, and the matriarch, young matriarch, probably only about 25 years old, maybe 30, had only one tusk, and she chased us. And that is bizarre for this area at this period. I mean, I haven't been chased by an elephant for many, many years now out here, because we just seem to have developed that much more trust with them, and I'm interested now that there's another very unrelaxed herd on Cheetah Plains. Something may be going on in the Kruger. It's quite possible that that herd has just come out of the Kruger, and you know, there is a fairly large wilderness block there. Maybe they're just not used to people. I don't know if it was reacting to Brent, the herd, or if it was just, I don't mean Brent personally, I mean the vehicle, obviously, and or if it was just unrelaxed anyway. So very interesting that. We shall watch it carefully, and as Brent says, it's extremely important to be watching the behavior of animals, especially if you suspect something's making them uneasy. And elephants, of course, the ones that you've got to be the most careful of. Especially if you're a little inexperienced. The first thing I used to tell new trainees was, when you are in an elephant sighting, you make sure that if you have to leave quickly, you can do it forwards with a relatively clear route in front of you. You don't want to be reversing away from elephants coming at you, because what happens is you tend to get a little fixated on what's going on in front of you, and you just start going backwards and you don't look where you're going. And then you end up on a termite mound with an elephant on your bonnet, which is not much fun. No, it wouldn't be fun, would it, Eggsy? No. No, it wouldn't. We're giving up on these two leopards. I'm missing exactly the name here, but a question about what time of year elephants have their babies. And the answer is, sorry, MC, you're wondering what time we have, when elephants have their babies. The answer, MC, is that there is no fixed time for elephants to have their babies. Let's just stop here a second. Just because there's a little bit of an alarm call going on in here. This is Hoffman's to the right-hand side of your screen. I'm just going to get up onto this termite mound here and have a look. So MC, an elephant herd doesn't have a specific time of year. They will probably peak their birthing season around about the wet season. There'll be a sort of peak, but there's no specific season. And of course an elephant has a gestation period of about 22 months. So there's never really a fixed time for them to give birth. Can you hear that? Can you hear the music, Eggsy? Do you know how to turn the microphone up? Have you turned it up yet, Eggsy? Having a nightmare there, aren't you? Eggsy, you're leaving me hanging here. Have you turned it up yet? Grief, man, how difficult can it be?
It's stuck in this little thing here. Okay, go.
You got it? Can you hear the music?
You can carry on dancing.
No, I can't carry on dancing. So I can hear music coming out of the communities over there. It sounds like it's just behind the next Balanites tree there. It isn't. It's about 4 kilometers away. Can you hear it now?
Still can't hear it, but the mic is on.
Wait, the wind's changed now. Here it comes. Not? Eggsy's having a hopeless nightmare this morning, everybody. Can't see any leopards in there.
Full blown.
It's not uncommon on a Sunday morning like this to hear the late night revelers still going for it in Dixie Village, which is about, well, it's 5 kilometers from the gate. As the crow flies in that direction, probably about 4 or 5 kilometers. What do you think of my dancing skills there, Eggsy? It couldn't be better, or could be better. Could be better. I see. Well, Eggsy, let's see what you look like with your beard attached to a Sisyphus bush. Let's see. Could be better. I thought I looked like Will Smith in Men in Black there. Sorry, I'm really struggling to hear Rebecca this morning on the back end of radio transmissions and difficulties. Go again. Troy, I got that. Why do some animals force? Force abort. Oh, you mean sort of a spontaneous abortion of fetus? Okay, right, I've got you now. Sorry, Rebecca will have to have some elocution lessons when we get home. No, it's not her fault at all. It's the radio's a bit sort of crackly this morning. Well, Troy, it's because it's new. Normally got to do with nutrition. So if there's a bad nutritional time like this drought, you'll find that the female may well spontaneously abort a fetus because she can't cope with having the child, and she can't produce enough milk, and she cannot maintain the she cannot maintain the placenta, and therefore it's basically she's either going to die if she tries to keep the baby, or the baby will, and they'll both die. So she aborts the fetus, and that's not entirely uncommon, but it's normally got to do with nutrition. You'll hear remarkable stories of how mammals are able to reabsorb the fetus. I'm yet to see an actual biological explanation that actually happens, so I don't believe it does, unless the fetus is very, very young. An impala, of course, which are now on the right-hand side, Eggsy, those are those sort of reddish things there. Well done. I'm going to now insult you basically continuously for the rest of the drive because you were insulting about my dancing skills. They are renowned for, well, legend has it that they're able to hold back their fetuses in times of adverse conditions. And one of the reasons people thought that, it's definitely not true, but one of the reasons people thought that is that they sometimes just don't give birth at the right time. And that will be because of these spontaneous abortions. And hopefully that won't be necessary this year, but this is the kind of year where it could be necessary. So if we don't get rain, sort of between now and the end of November, and the grass does not improve, then you could well have a situation where some of them might spontaneously get rid of the fetus before it's born. See, eating there, Eggsy. It's quite interesting. Now, it's just the tufts of last bits of grass there. The reason they're concentrating on that particularly seemingly denuded piece of land is that it's actually part of that vast termite mound there. And that vast termite mound will extend sort of the same again, well, no, probably 3 or 4 times that under the surface of the soil. And so where those impala are grazing, the soil is particularly rich, and therefore good for grass and grazing. Alright, Eggsy the beard, soon to be Eggsy the Sisyphus beard, let us carry on. What an absolute cheek. I think he thought if he mumbled it into his beard I wouldn't notice. No, no, no. Cape Townians are taking honesty too far. Alright, we're going back on towards Djuma. I'm going to go towards the eastern sector now and see if we don't perhaps pick up tracks of Karula, or maybe some elephants coming this way who are slightly less irritated than the ones Brent had.